Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. The Court of Appeals for the State of Indiana is now in session. Please be seated.
So welcome to this very happy occasion for the swearing in and robing of Judge Robert Altice. I'm Nancy Vadic. I will be presiding over this proceeding, and we're a little late because there are many people in the Senate chambers and the House chambers who are watching this on TV, so that we went ahead of time so that we could introduce ourselves and get them all excited about this proceeding. And of course, they were excited anyway. You may not know, but the Court of Appeals, the Intermediate Court, was established in 1891. And since that time, there's been 134 persons who have served as judges of the Intermediate Court of Appeals. So, Judge Altice, you are our 135th member. We're proud to have you here. I'm delighted to welcome you, and as our court is, and so let me introduce you to the hosts of this and begin with, on my right, your left, Judge Edward Najum, Judge James Kirsch, Judge Terry Crone, and Judge Rudolph Pyle. Also present are Judge John Baker, Judge Patricia Riley, Judge L. Mark Bailey, Judge Melissa May, Judge Margaret Robb, Judge Cale Bradford. We also have a contingent of senior judges here from the Court of Appeals. Senior Judge Carr Darden is here. Newly Senior Judge Ezra Friedlander, and I mean that newly. Senior Judge William Gerard, former Judge Linda Cheatham, and Senior Judge Randall Shepard. I always don't know whether I should announce Randall Shepard with the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court, but since we go first, I take credit for him. So thank you all for being here. I also have a host of dignitaries to introduce here today. And the first one is the governor, and so you'll all want to clap for the governor. You're going to have an opportunity to do that, and if you would hold your claps until all of the dignitaries are introduced, I'd very much appreciate it. First, as I said, our governor of the state of Indiana, Mike Pence. We also have many, many members from the trial courts. The Honorable Sheila Carlisle is here. The Honorable Marla Clark from Johnson Circuit Court. The Honorable Angela Davis, Judge, Marion Superior Court. Honorable Patrick Dietrich, Judge, Marion Superior Court. Honorable Thomas Feltz, Judge, Allen Circuit Court. Honorable Clayton Graham, Judge, Marion Superior Court. Honorable Bob Frazee, Judge, Hendricks Superior Court. Honorable Lance Hamner, Judge of the Johnson Superior Court. Honorable Susan Henderson, Judge, Fountain Circuit Court. Honorable Kurt Eisgruber, Judge, Marion Superior Court. Honorable Matt Kincaid, Judge, Boone Superior Court. Honorable Stan Crow, Judge, Marion Superior Court. Honorable Stephanie LeMay Lucan, Judge, Hendricks Superior Court. Honorable Stanley Levine, Judge, Allen Superior Court. Honorable Cheryl Lynch, Judge, Marion Circuit Court. Honorable Helen Marshall, Judge, Marion Superior Court. Honorable Andrea McCord, Judge, Lawrence Circuit Court. Honorable Jose Salinas, Judge, Marion Superior Court. Honorable Heather Welsh, Judge, Marion Superior Court. Honorable Mary G. Willis, Judge, Henry Circuit Court. Carol Dill, Magistrate, Marion Superior Court. Victoria Ransberger, Magistrate, Marion Superior Court. Tammy Summers, Magistrate, Hendricks Superior Court, and Debbie Shook, Commissioner from Marion Superior Court. That's just the state trial court judges that are here. I wonder, Bob, whether or not you'll have all these friends on the state trial court judge after a few opinions. Federal judges here. We have Judge John Tinder, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 7th Circuit. We have Sarah Evans Barker, Judge for the United States District Court, Southern District. We have Judge William Lawrence, Judge, United States District Court, Southern District of Indiana. Judge Jane Magnus Stinson, who is, of course, Judge for the United States District Court, Southern District of Indiana. Tanya Walton Pratt, Judge, again, from the United States District Court, Southern District of Indiana. And Robin Moberly, the Chief Judge of the Federal Bankruptcy Court. We have Tim Baker here, Magistrate for the United States District Court, Southern District. And we have other federal dignitaries as well. Josh Minkler, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District. Where are you, Mr. Minkler? There you are. We have our U.S. Congresswoman, Susan Brooks, here from Washington, D.C., coming to join us. In terms of local officials, there are no slouches either. Honorable Terry Curry, Marion County Prosecutor. Mr. Curry, are you here? We have Oljan Williams, the Deputy Mayor from the City of Indianapolis. From the bar, we have Carol Adanamis, President-elect of the Indiana State Bar Association. Tom Piers, Executive Director of the Indiana State Bar Association. John Trimble, President of the Indianapolis Bar Association. Terrence Tharp, President of the Marion County Bar. Hang with me, only half of a page left here. Others, we have Lee Christie from the Judicial Nominating Commission, as well as Rudy Yackham from the Judicial Nominating Commission. Larry Landis is here, who is the Executive Director of the Indiana Public Defenders Council. We have Kevin Smith here, the Administrator of the Supreme Court and Clerk of the Courts. Lilia Judson is here as the Interim Chief Administrative Officer for the Supreme Court, and her cohort, Dave Remendini, who is the Interim Executive Director of the Division of the State Court Administrator. Adrian Meyering is here as counsel for the Commission on Judicial Qualifications and, more importantly, the Judicial Nominating Commission. We have Karen Graves, Administrator of the Indiana Tax Court. We have Julia Orezeski from the Executive Director of the Indiana Commission for Continuing Legal Education. Jane Siegel is here, Executive Director of the Indiana Judicial Center. Mike Whitty is here, Executive Director of the Disciplinary Commission. And we have Judge Marty Wentworth over here as our tax court judge. And finally, as a very important dignitary here is the person who set up all of this event for us. His name is Steve Lancaster. He is the court administrator for the Court of Appeals, and this will be his last event. He has served for 20 years as our court administrator, and he has served so competently, professionally, and Steve, we thank you for your service to this court. So let me turn this over to our very able Chief Justice of the Indiana Supreme Court, Loretta Rush, to welcome members of her court and give her brief remarks. Oh, someone needs to take their cell phone off. But before I do so, let me thank you publicly, Chief, for one, giving me the honor to be on this bench with you today, two women leading this, and two, for being so collegial and collaborative with our court through all the decisions that you make. You ask for our input and we very much appreciate it, and I think it makes our court and your court stronger. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief Judge Vedic. Welcome to this beautiful room on this historic day that we honor Judge Altice. Very proud to introduce my colleagues on the Supreme Court and state their name, and I'm just going to, for a piece of history, say the year that they took their oath in this room. So we have former Chief Justice, Justice Brent Dixon, took his oath in 1986. Justice Robert Rucker took his oath for the Court of Appeals in 1991, and then the Supreme Court in 1999. Stephen David took his oath in 2010, Mark Massa, 2012, and myself, 2012. We welcome you. All right, on behalf of my remarks today, again, on behalf of my colleagues on the Supreme Court, Judge Altice, congratulations and welcome to the Indiana Appellate Bench. And welcome to all the state and federal court judges that are here. I wonder what's going on in the collective courtrooms around the state of Indiana with the number of you that are here today to help celebrate, again, in this beautiful courtroom. And hello to all of you in the legislative chambers. We saw you before, and we will be meeting with you afterwards as well. So Judge Altice, in thinking about you in this appointment, I was struck by one thing. Nice guys do finish first. The list of your supporters throughout our state was overwhelming. You are truly beloved in this profession. Your adherence to the rule of law has been tested through thousands of hearings in your Marion County courtroom. In a similar vein, your collegiality, your civility, your work in instilling public trust in a fair judicial system is equally notable. Our charge to you today is to continue to adhere to the oath, to uphold your constitutional role, protect the rule of law in Indiana, and continue to be a role model to attorneys and judges. Governor Pence, you did a wonderful job in selecting Judge Altice as your first judicial appellate appointment. Your thoughtfulness and careful consideration in this selection will serve Indiana well. Thank you.
So next, let me introduce the man who made this all possible, the governor of our state of Indiana. And Governor Pence, I want to say to you that I'm probably the 1,000th, considering the people that are here, maybe the 2,000th person who wants to tell you you made a very, very good decision here. And thank you very much on behalf of my court. So Governor Pence, we're looking forward to your remarks as well.
Thank you, Chief Judge Vedic. Thank you for those generous comments. And to our Chief Justice, Loretta Rush, I thank you as well for your kindness, for your leadership, and your example. And to members of the Supreme Court who join us today and welcome us to this historic chamber. And to distinguished members of the Court of Appeals, members of the judiciary and the bar, and most importantly, members of the Altice family. This is a great day for Indiana, and it is my great privilege to be with all of you today. I also am grateful to have members of the federal judiciary with us today, and also a great champion of issues affecting our judiciary on the national level, Congresswoman Susan Brooks. It's wonderful to have you in attendance for such an important moment. And to all of those who are looking on from the neighboring chambers, thank you for being here to honor this moment and to honor this good man and this good family. But before I make a few brief remarks about the newest member of the Court of Appeals, I know you won't mind indulging me for just a moment to pay a debt of gratitude to Judge Ezra Friedlander. Judge Friedlander, we thank you for decades of service and leadership on the Court of Appeals and a career in the legal field that has spanned a half a century. Indiana will always be in your debt, and our system of justice is better for you having been a part of it. Ms. my great privilege to be here today to help usher in a new member of the Indiana Court of Appeals, Judge Robert R. Altice, Jr., and to be in the presence of his wife, Chris, and to know that John, no doubt, will be looking on from afar. I understand he's going through midterms in law school as we speak. And I especially want to say hello to Kathleen, who's watching this live online from somewhere in Spain, I think. To his dad, Robert Altice Sr., and all of the family of this good and decent public service, let me extend my heartfelt congratulations to all of you. Because if your family is anything like my family, Bob will tell you just like I would. We don't serve in these public roles on our own. We serve because we have families that stand with us, that hold our arms up and strengthen us. And so, how about a round of applause for the entire Altice family? Of all my duties as governor of the state of Indiana, I will tell you that I take my responsibilities of having the privilege from time to time of appointing men and women to our judiciary to be chief among those. And I approach it thoughtfully and in fact prayerfully, because I know that for the men and women that I will appoint to the judiciary, they will do as those wearing robes here do on a regular basis. Make decisions that bear not so much upon our laws as they do upon the lives of the people of our state and the collective life of the state of Indiana. And it was about that kind of process that I considered a number of highly qualified candidates for this appointment to the Indiana Court of Appeals. And after much thoughtful consideration, I chose Judge Robert Altice Jr. to serve on the Court of Appeals for several reasons. His legal and professional experience are known by many, and the peers that are gathered here today speak volumes about the reputation that Judge Altice enjoys among members of the bench. It may have had something to do with the fact that he hosted a broadcast called Off the Bench, but it probably had more to do just with the way that he conducted himself throughout his many years in and around our judicial system. While elected in November of 2000, served as a Marion County Superior Judge. He chaired the Marion Superior Court civil team and was appointed by the Indiana Supreme Court to serve as a special judge in cases outside Marion County. That may explain why on my desk before I made this decision, nearly 24 of his colleagues in the judiciary around the state of Indiana recommended Judge Altice for this position. But it wasn't just his experience. It wasn't just because after starting his legal career in Missouri, he had sense enough to move to Indiana. But rather, I will tell you that it's not just experience that your governor looks to in these moments, but it's character. When you look at the life and the career of Robert Altice, it is a career that is committed to justice on the bench and compassion in a community. His dedication to the community is really unmatched. He served on charitable boards, including the board of directors of Coburn Place Safe Haven for Victims of Domestic Violence, Community Corrections Advisory Board in Marion County, IMPD's Police Athletic League, and the Martin Luther King Community Development Corporation, just to name a few. These experiences in the community enrich the community, but I suspect Bob would be the first to say they also enriched his capacity to make decisions that affect the lives of people in this city and around the state of Indiana. And I know those same habits and practices will carry him forward as he serves with great distinction on the Court of Appeals. And so it's professional and legal experience. It's his command of the law. It is his character and his organization skills that he brings to the task of joining such a distinguished group on the Indiana Court of Appeals. As the Chief Judge mentioned, the Court of Appeals was created by the General Assembly back in 1891 to relieve a growing caseload on the Supreme Court. Today, the 15 judges on the Court of Appeals now issue more than 2,500 written opinions each year. And I know that Judge Altice will make an enormous and important contribution to that workload and to the life of our judiciary in our state. So I thank all of you for coming and sharing in this moment. It is my first robing maybe yours as well. I will tell you, of all the men and women I've had the privilege to be able to appoint to positions in the judiciary, I count it as a particular privilege that this first appointment to the Court of Appeals would be an individual of the character and the caliber and the experience of Robert Altice Jr. And Judge, I would simply say to you, as the old book tells us, in the days ahead, I'm confident that you will do justice, you will love kindness, and you will walk humbly as you serve the state of Indiana as our newest member of the Court of Appeals. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Governor. Many of you may not know that the governor just returned from Japan just for this ceremony, so thank you. You honor us with your presence. So a person is judged by the company he keeps, and it says much about Judge Altice that one of his very good life friends and professional colleagues is a current member of the Indiana Supreme Court. Justice Massa, you're up.
Thank you, and may it please the court. Governor, Chief Justice Rush, Chief Judge Vedic, friends and honored guests. It's been said by several snarky playwrights and authors through the years, from Somerset Maugham to Gore Vidal, that it's not enough to have success in life. It helps if your friends fail, too. And once again, in keeping up with the 20-year trajectory of our friendship, Bob Altice is not holding up his end of the bargain. I nonetheless join you all in celebrating his latest accomplishment today with great joy and considerable pride. Bob Altice, AKA Big Bob, Judge Bob, Robbie, as his dad calls him, and some of us have used for 20 years, and my personal favorite from certain court staff at the City County Building, Judge McDreamy. Could the governor have given us a more perfect successor to the enthusiastically social Zeke Friedlander? My friend Judge Levine from Fort Wayne thinks it a conspiracy. Is the judge in the room? Aha, he is. Would you mind standing up and waving, sir? Shortly after Bob's appointment was announced, I received the following email from Judge Levine. Mr. Justice Massa, he begins, I suspect with the replacement of Ezra Friedlander by Bob Altice that there is an insidious plot to keep people with an indecent amount of hair on the appellate bench. I do not know who is behind this, but I would suspect that John Baker may be involved. As a fellow member of the minority group of judges with little or no hair on top, I trust you will be extremely vigilant to prevent further manifestations of this effort. Sincerely, Judge Stanley Levine, Allen Superior Court. I told him I would continue to look out for our people. Setting salad envy aside, I can tell you it isn't every day that someone turns out to be as good as advertised. I can still remember the first time I heard Bob's name, nearly 21 years ago. We had a mutual friend, Kevin Betts, who approached me shortly after Scott Newman's upset win in the election for Marion County prosecutor. Scott had asked me to serve in his new administration and to oversee the transition. And might I just add here, what a proud day this is for the Newman Alumni Association, which includes Judge Bradford and no fewer than 15 current judicial officers of the Marion Superior Court, as well as judges or magistrates in 4 other Indiana counties and a Supreme Court justice, and at least 21 former Newman deputies in robes. What a living legacy of Scott's tenure. But back to Kevin. Bob had been hired by the incumbent of the other party. Kevin thought it might be helpful to reach out on his behalf. I'll never forget what he told me. He said, "You're going to love this guy. He's a great lawyer, and he has a big personality. Fills the room." If that didn't turn out to be true. As Churchill said of Lloyd George, he can charm the birds out of the trees. In Bob's case, that charm is not deceptive, it is sincere, and a product I would offer of moving around a lot as a kid. Much like our Chief Justice, who moved across the country as her dad worked for the railroad, they both make friends immediately, and their most deserved personal and professional success is in no small part attributable to it. Indiana is so lucky that both of you chose to settle here. We are lucky, too, that Bob's bride, Chris Jones, decided to take a job with Ice Miller in her hometown in the early 90s, after the two became lawyers in Kansas City. Bob was already an accomplished major felony prosecutor in the courthouse that Harry Truman built when he moved here and into private practice. But soon he was itching to serve again in the courtroom, and the Marion County prosecutor at the time, Jeffrey Modisette, wisely gave him that chance. Now ponder for a moment Bob's political navigational skills, if you will, and the times in which he sailed. He moves to a strange town, gets himself hired by an office holder of one party, survives soon thereafter the transition of a hostile takeover, rises to leadership in that administration, and a mere 6 years later is slated by the other party to run for judge. It doesn't happen every day in Indianapolis, and it's a testament to those traits I noted a moment ago. But to focus too much on Bob's charm is to overlook his immense talent. During his years as a prosecutor, he was entrusted with some of the community's most important cases, including with now Judge Carlisle as co-counsel, the prosecution of Carey Price for the murders of officers Robert Black and Brian Northern in the Meadows in 1997. Again, talk about living up to your billing. In December of '94, when Scott was preparing to take office, he and I visited with each of the major felony court judges to better vet some of our deputies. We sat in the chambers of the Honorable Webster Brewer, a very demanding umpire, and he asked us, "You gentlemen follow baseball? Are you familiar with the term closer?" We nodded. Then he said, "Bob Altice is a closer." That's all we needed to hear. Indeed, his career as a judge for the last 15 years has been just as noteworthy, again presiding in many of the highest profile and saddest cases you could ever imagine, without losing his humanity or sinking into despair, despite metaphorically drowning in blood. In recent years, he honed his skills in civil court and thus arrives on the appellate bench with a full toolbox ready for the job. At Judge Friedlander's retirement ceremony in this room a few weeks ago, someone said Zeke was blessed with uncommon common sense. The same can be said of Bob, who also has a sense for the moment and when uncommon attention and effort is required. There was a time when Scott was contemplating whether to press on in a particularly challenging, high-profile investigation or to back off. Bob's advice was go big or go home. He lives his life that way. He plays golf that way. Good Lord, he hits it 300 off the tee every time, and at least every third or fourth hole he can find his ball. Today he goes big again. This big man with the big personality that fills the room has filled this room today with people who love him and are so happy for his success. He's a great friend, father, son, brother, and husband. He will be a collegial colleague and an outstanding addition to the Court of Appeals. And on behalf of my colleagues, I'm proud to welcome him to the appellate courts and to help present him here today. Congratulations, Robbie. Well done.
Thank you, Justice Massa. Well done. Also introducing Judge Altice is a member of our court, a colleague, a friend, someone who will be serving his second stint as Judge Altice's mentor, Cale Bradford.
Chief Judge Vedic, thank you very much. Members of the Court of Appeals, the Indiana Supreme Court, Governor Pence, legislators, various government officials, family, and friends of Robert Altice. You know, I love a good swearing in. I mean, especially if you're the swearee. You get to sit in the front row with your wife and the governor, hear everybody say all kinds of nice things about you. It's like going to your own funeral, you don't have to die. But less than a month ago, we gathered in this very room and celebrated the career of Zeke Friedlander. You're getting a lot of plugs today for a retired guy, you know. And during that ceremony, towards the end of it, Judge Crone made some wonderful comments. And at the end of the ceremony, he presented Judge Friedlander with a replica of what I call Indiana's patriotic pig, Captain Super Swine, who sits outside the Lieutenant Governor's office. And it was really a neat gesture, and it was really a neat thing. But Judge Altice, I don't have a pig for you today, but I do have these remarks. When I proudly wrote to the Judicial Nominating Commission to endorse Judge Altice, a Kansas native, as a candidate for the Court of Appeals, I told them I'd known Bob for over 20 years. I've lawyered with Bob, I've judged with Bob, I've administrated with Bob, I've taught and mentored with Bob, I've traveled with Bob, back in the day, politicked with Bob, and I've been fortunate enough to build a close friendship with Bob and his family. Other than his family, I think I know Bob Altice just about as well as you can know an individual. As Chief Judge Vedic noted, when he was first elected trial judge in the state of Indiana, I was appointed by the Indiana Supreme Court to be his judicial mentor. And more recently, Chief Judge Vedic asked me to continue that role on the Court of Appeals. Despite this millstone that has been strung around his neck for the last 15 years, right? He's gone on to accomplish extraordinary things as a judge and an individual, and it's with this background of knowing him that I make my remarks today. As a lawyer, Bob was a consummate professional and gentleman. He was everything a lawyer should be: well prepared, a strong advocate, but reasonable and realistic in seeking sensible solutions to cases. He was always prompt in responding to others. He is someone who plays up front and plays by the rules, and whose ethics are beyond reproach. While working with him at the Marion County Prosecutor's Office, he supervised a major felony court and later was entrusted with the supervision of the entire felony division, supervising all the deputy prosecutors of the offices of the major felony division who handle the most serious criminal cases in our community. His genuine caring qualities as a person shine through as he dealt with those that worked for him while bringing justice to sometimes what seems like an abyss of violent crime in our world. Judge Altice's contribution as a trial judge these past 15 years cannot be overstated. As a major felony judge, he handled day to day and year to year some of the most challenging cases to ever face Marion County. Using these very same qualities I've already mentioned, he protected the rights of the accused and the rights of the victims alike. He was a capable administrator of the court's business and guided cases in his court in a fair and efficient manner, so justice delayed did not mean justice denied. Judge Altice showed compassion when circumstances called for it, but he also did what he had to do when the law and the facts called for a severe result. Most importantly, when you appeared before Judge Altice, you knew you were going to be treated fairly, without bias, with consistency, and with dignity. He understood that when citizens and lawyers appeared before him, they were at least nervous, and many were just quite frankly scared. He understood that no good comes from making other people feel small by making yourself feel larger. He applied these same principles as he moved into the civil division and further displayed his keen intellect for the law and his ability to judge fairly. He tried some 250 jury trials as a judge, many times waiting late into the hours of the night for a verdict. and then after receiving it, driving home into the darkness of night, only to get up the next day and do it all over again. That's what the trial judges around Indiana do every day for you and every night for you citizens. God bless Judge Altice and all the trial judges of the state of Indiana. As a fellow judge, he is the consummate colleague, collegial, considerate of others' views and reaching sensible solutions in administrative matters while helping to run a court system in Marion County which delivers 25% of the justice of the state of Indiana in the cases of our state. He's a contributor. He is not a taker. He abhors gossip and prefers only to contribute in the positive. Judge Altice is something that what I also believe separates a very good judge from a great judge. He is a judicial leader. He understands the responsibility of a judge extends not only in the rectangle of your courtroom, but to your court system as a whole, and that you need to step up at a certain point in your career and contribute to the whole of the court system, just not the court you're assigned to. And he stepped up and he capably did all that, holding leadership positions in the Marion Superior Court, several bar associations, and the Inn of Courts. He served as Chief Judge of the Marion Superior Criminal Courts, Chief Judge of the Marion Superior Civil Courts, and was elected as presiding judge by the entire Marion County judges to be their leader. Bob can lead, he can follow. He's smart enough and he's got enough common sense to know that there's a time to do both. And he knows his time and he does what is necessary under those circumstances. As a politician, Bob was supportive of his party, but respected and worked with others on the other side of the aisle in providing statesmanship government to the citizens of Marion County. More importantly, he demonstrated a cardinal tenet for all judges that politics must remain outside the courtroom. Because of his ability to see the entire playing field, he worked effectively with other branches of government, our partners, in delivering government to the citizens of the state of Indiana. In forecasting Bob's success, it's kind of like going to the racetrack. You just look back at the past performance to see how the horse ran. And looking at Bob's past, I can plainly state Indiana is most fortunate to have him. The Indiana Court of Appeals is most fortunate to have him as a judge. My thanks to all of you, professionally, family, personally, in every way, that have helped to influence, mold, and shape Robert Altice into the man and judge he is today. The final chapter of my remarks about Judge Altice are about Robert Altice, the human being. He is a devoted husband who holds his wife on a pedestal, whose love for her grows more deeply each moment. He loves her more now than when we started this ceremony. And even more now than just then. He's a poster child for Father of the Year. He managed all these things we're talking about, and being a loving husband while giving his children both quality time and quantity time, the things that you need both. And you can't have a better friend. He's an organizer of lunches, dinners, golf trips, fishing trips, and gatherings. And I can tell you, it hasn't been mentioned today, the guy can flat out cook, all right? So you need to get to his house for dinner. But most importantly, he's there to celebrate your ups, but I guess more importantly than anything, he's always there to get you through your downs. And his wife and he have done some extraordinary things for people that have impacted their lives in extraordinary ways. As I wind down my comments, I want to tell you a story, right? Altices, as it's been mentioned, have two children, Jack and Kathleen. And they're growing. One's in college, one's in law school, and they're going to accomplish great things. They're bright and wonderful children, just like their parents. But at one time, they were kindergarten students. And about 15 years ago, they told me that I should meet their kid's kindergarten teacher. So we got fixed up on the classic blind date, and 8 months later, Sam Bradford and I were married, and she's here today, wave honey, to celebrate. That's the kind of person Bob Altice is. That's the kind of person Chris Altice is. And that's the kind of people the Altice-Jones family are. You know, I tell people who are unfamiliar with the court system that the Court of Appeals is the instant replay booth of litigation. When they think there's a bad call out on the field, they throw the red flag and ask for it to be reviewed. And that's when we go to work, appellate judges. Well, Bob, you're not in Kansas anymore. On behalf of the appellate judges of the state of Indiana, welcome to the instant replay booth.
Thank you, Judge Bradford. Well done. Now, what we've all been waiting for, and that is the formal oath of office being administered by the Chief Justice. So if you'll come forward here, Judge Altice and Chris. I understand that you'll be holding the family Bible.
You don't want my bed? I, Robert R. Altice, Jr.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
the Constitution of the State of Indiana,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge my duties
discharge my duties
as Judge of the Court of Appeals of Indiana
as Judge of the Court of Appeals of Indiana
according to the best of my skill and ability,
according to the best of my skill and ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Equally important, don't sit down yet, is the robing ceremony.
Chief Justice, she told me to sit down.
Oh, okay. Very, very smart thing to do. The robing ceremony will be performed by your parents, Robert and Louise Altice. This is the best part of the ceremony for me. I don't know who's more proud to be here and having this honor bestowed, the son or the parents. So it's with great pleasure that I announce and introduce to you Robert and Louise Altice for the robing ceremony.
So is it my turn?
Yes, it's your turn.
Okay. Well, thank you all very, very much. Thank you, Chief Judge Vedic, and thank you, Chief Justice Rush, and Governor, thank you, obviously, very, very much. Thank you, Justice Massa, Judge Bradford. Obviously, the two of them have been very, very good friends of mine for a very, very long time, and it was a pleasure, and I was honored to have both of them stand up here and make remarks on my behalf. So thank you all very, very much for being here today, and a little overwhelmed by the crowd in the House of Representatives and the Senate chambers. I was like, God, I hope I didn't miss anybody. So I don't think I did. So I've been walking around for the last several weeks trying to figure out what I was going to say today, and my clerks can tell you I came in today and finally jotted some things down. So, but it's all those thoughts that have been going through my head for the last several weeks. And the one thing I just kept saying to myself, and I kept thinking, was so many people to thank and so little time. So I'm going to try to do this quite quickly, and if I get too long, somebody clear their throat and I'll move along. So, of course, the first person I need to thank is the Governor, Governor Pence. Thank you very, very much for having the confidence in me and choosing me for such an important job for the people of the great state of Indiana. I am truly honored and truly humbled to be standing here today, and I thank you greatly for that. But I must tell you, I've got to tell you a story, and I also want to thank you very much for being so kind to my family, my court staff that is here today, and many of my friends that were with me on the day that you made the announcement. And I've got to tell you a story. We had to get there 15 minutes early because the governor wanted to meet my family. And he had met Chris and I before at some political events, various events, but he had never met my children before. So we got there 15 minutes early, Chris and I did, and actually a little earlier, and sat down and chatted with him. But for those of you that have 24-year-old kids at home, my 24-year-old son decided he was going to be about 10, 15 minutes late that day. You know, he was only meeting the governor. Anyway, so Chris and I are freaking out. He finally gets there, you know, and the whole time he's got his 20-year-old sister in his ear the entire time going after him. And they finally get there. And so the governor spends truly 15 minutes with him and Kathleen, with Jack and Kathleen, just so he can get to know them. Of course, the whole time, the press conference is, 10, 15 minutes late, all because of Jack. Mark Ahern's in the background going, come on, Governor, we got to go, we've got to go. And he never once budged. He sat and he talked to them. So afterwards, I got home and I asked my kids, I'm like, how was it talking with him? They were like, Dad, he was so sincere. It was awesome talking to him. And Kathleen goes, but I got to tell you the best part. She goes, after the press conference was over, there was a lot of people there, and we were sitting and we were talking, and all of a sudden somebody tapped me on the shoulder, and she said, and I turned around, and she goes, and it was him. And I go, him being the governor? And she goes, yes. And he said to me, he said, Kathleen, I'm getting ready to go to another event, and I just wanted to let you know that it was truly an honor to meet you, and congratulations to you and your family, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime. My kids have been around people, elected officials, their whole life. No one had ever done anything like that before to them. That meant so much to them. My staff was abuzz for weeks and weeks after the way that you treated them, and my friends as well. So thank you. You are truly a genuinely nice, nice person, and for that I thank you very, very much. So. Truly happy that my family is here today. My parents, for those of you who don't know, that live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is where my sister and my brother-in-law Kurt, who's a lawyer there in Tulsa, are from. And I tell you that because who else would ever decide to retire to Tulsa, Oklahoma is beyond me. But that's where they're from, and they love life there. My dad plays golf 4 times a week and just loves it. My parents are we talked a little bit about Kale's wife, Sam, being both of my children's kindergarten teacher, but most of you don't realize my mother was my kindergarten teacher. I had meningitis when I was 5 years old, and of course was not permitted to go to kindergarten because I was basically in quarantine for the age of 5. And for those of you who think that may have been a really cool thing, it was not. My parochial friends that talk about getting spanked on the knuckles all the time, you guys had it good compared to what I had. So She was quite the taskmaster, lots of flashcards on a daily basis, and I'm pretty sure I was reading at ninth grade level by the time I entered into first grade because of her skills. But education was one thing that was greatly stressed in our family, and my sister and my brother and I were the first three to graduate from college on both sides of our family. So it was, my parents scraped and scrimped to make sure they had enough funds to send us to college, and so for that, I know I'm grateful, and I know my brother and my sister are quite grateful. My sister, as I said, is here. She's a lifelong educator, been a teacher her whole life, and a great one at that. My brother got all the brains in the family, chemical engineer, works for a publicly traded company, and is president of one of their divisions, and has just been quite successful. And so thank you all for being there. My brother's here with his wife, Pam, and their daughter, Rachel, who got out of high school to be here today. And my sister, Karen, and her husband, Kurt, are here with their daughter, Celeste, who's a junior at Tulsa University and flew in late last night. Rich's other daughter, Anna, is, I still call it Southwest Missouri State, is a junior there, and so obviously couldn't get away for school here today. The two people you will notice that are not here are my son and my daughter. So Jack, unlike his old man, is actually studying in law school, so no, he's working hard. He does have midterms coming up, and so I told him I thought that would be a very good idea. Kathleen and her friends are hopefully in Barcelona somewhere. So hello to Kathleen and her 14 DG buddies, and I guess I've got to give this kind of DG sign to them, so hopefully they'll know what that means. And their good friend Emma Merrill also is with them over there too, so I know they're having a great time over there as well. Not a lot has been talked. A lot has been talked about our family, but also here today with us is the Jones family, as I like to call it. As you heard, we moved a lot as kids. My dad got promoted, and he's got personality similar to mine, and was well liked, and got promoted, and was a very smart man, and so we did a lot of moving. But when Chris and I had Jack, we decided that we wanted to get close to family. We had no family in Kansas City, so we moved back here, and we've just been embraced by the Jones family, and so the second two rows are all the Jones family primarily. And it's been wonderful for my children to get to go up around their cousins. It's been great for me to get to grow up with my nephews and watch them grow up, and my nieces, and it's just a wonderful family, and I'm just so glad you as well are here to be part of this celebration today also. So anyway, I almost skipped over my favorite part and my favorite person, and that is my wife, Chris. And I would have been really in a lot of trouble if that had have happened. You know, I heard, I think Don Ward's here. I know I saw Don Ward here, and I went to his legendary lawyer, there he is, legendary lawyer award that he got the other day, and it just struck me because he talked about the fact of how great his wife was and how she still irons your shirts every morning when you get up. My mom did the same thing, and until my dad retired, and probably ironed that this morning before she got here. But it's how times have changed. But just so you think she doesn't do anything, let me tell you about my wife. My wife has served on major boards throughout this city, Methodist Health Foundation Board, the IRT. She's on the 500 Festival Committee. She does all of that. She makes sure dinner's on the table every night for when the kids were in school, and otherwise we'd be eating pizza every night like most of the dads out there. She does all the finances in the house. She's the one that pushes me, and she does all of that, and she's general counsel for one of the largest construction companies in the state of Indiana, which she's been doing for the last 16 years. She's a very amazing woman, and I'm so fortunate and so lucky to have her, so thank you. Still wish she'd iron the shirts. So anyway, so I'm going to move along, and I've got so many folks here, and like I said, it's so overwhelming just to see all the people that are in the other two rooms. And some of those people are my colleagues back in the day when I was in the prosecutor's office. I see Scott Newman here. Scott, you must be so proud of Mark. Touted off the statistics. It's just amazing. And those were good days. Boy, we had a lot of fun back in those days. We worked hard and we played hard. So a lot of those prosecutors that I work with are here today, and it's so good to see them. I look forward to seeing a lot of the others as well. 2001, I took the bench. Like a couple of weeks ago when I first started this job, I was scared to death my first day on the bench. Judge Moberly had moved over to the civil bench, and I was coming in on a major felony bench after being a trial judge, and it was a little frightening because it was a high-volume case. But I looked around, and of course, across the hall from me was my mentor, Cale Bradford. Next door to me was Patricia Gifford. Caddy corner of the hall from me was Judge Tanya Walton Pratt. Upstairs, just one floor above, was Jane Magnus Stinson. Wow, what a lineup. There was no way I could fail. I had the best people that I could go to for advice, and I did. I was in their office every day. I kind of rotated it so I wouldn't bother them, but I bugged the living you-know-what out of them. And thank you all very much. The reason I think I was successful on the bench was because I had you guys right there, and you guys were so very, very helpful to me, and it means so much to me having you here today. It really does. So thank you all very much. 2001, I did that job for 12 years, and after that, I had finally had my share of dead bodies. So I moved over to the civil bench. Actually, before I did that, I need to also tell you that a lot of the other folks that are in here today are a lot of the public defenders and prosecutors that were in my courtroom for 12 years, and how very much they taught me. We tried a ton of jury trials, and those people do not get the credit that they deserve. They're underpaid. They work their you-know-whats off. They are passionate about what they do, and let me tell you, they know the rules of evidence. They know how to try a jury trial better than anybody, and a lot of them are here today, and it's just really good to see them here, and they taught me so much over the 12 years in my criminal experience. So now on to civil, and my lovely staff said, "You're doing what?" I look at Charlotte back there smiling, and she was like, "I don't even know what the word civil means, but I'm going with you, Judge." And she did, and so did Becky, and so did everybody else, and they all went with me, and we learned something new. And there are a lot of civil lawyers down in these other two rooms that were so very, very helpful to me. And the way that they taught me in their briefs that they submitted to me. And I told them, I don't know a lot about this, but they submitted their briefs and they taught me, and equally as wonderful. They were all wonderful lawyers, and it's so good to see all of them here as well. Wonderful, wonderful trial lawyers. So anyway, moving along, 15 years as a trial court judge, and I've got, as you've been told here today, a lot of my colleagues from all over the state of Indiana, and many of them I've met through teaching with them, graduate program for the judges. I loved being a trial judge. It was 15 great years of my life, and I think I'm going to like being a Court of Appeals judge as well, but it was, I remember those days and those colleagues, and for those of you who have come from all over the state today to be with me on this great day, I thank you very, very much, and it means so very, very much to me. So thank you all. Many of you sent just wonderful letters, so thanks for all those letters that you sent to me. I've got many of my neighbors here, my non-lawyer friends that are in this room with me, because I figured the other lawyers, they'd be okay with sitting out there. They understand. So, and you guys probably would have been like, what, I've got to watch this on television. I drove downtown to watch him on television. So many of you sent so many lovely letters to me, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. In fact, I was getting letters today, even from my interns. I think I've had some 40 interns to 50 interns over my 15 years on the bench. But if you think after today and hearing all of this that I've got this huge head now, and I'm not going to be the same old guy. The one favorite letter that I got that I brought along with me today was just addressed simply to Judge Altice. It, of course, was marked personal and confidential, which I will spell it, CONVINDENTIAL. And all it said, and this was my favorite letter because I'm going to keep this in the back of my head at all times, just when we all thought your head couldn't get any bigger. I will keep that always in mind because my head is not going to get any bigger. I'm still going to be the same old Bob that I've always been. And thank you all so very much for being here. I'm tired of talking, so I'm going to sit down. And thank you to all my family. And I just look forward to my new colleagues. And thank you all for being here as well today.
Colleagues here. So please join your colleagues. You can all be seated. He is now officially a member of the Indiana Court of Appeals, and Judge Altice, we welcome you to the court. I'm not sure I'll ever get out of my brain Judge McDreamy, ever. The thing about us is we're really a group of doers. We write thousands of opinions every year, but not only that, we're involved in community service activities, law associations, teaching engagements. We're all over the place. Somebody told me one day, everywhere we go, there's a court of appeals judge there. And we know that you're a doer too, so we're so happy to have you to help us do. We've heard all of the things that you've done over the course of your career, and we know that you're going to help us with all that as well. We're also welcome you for your broad spectrum of experience. I mean, you've been a practitioner, a prosecutor, a litigator, a trial court judge in both the civil and criminal realm. We thank you so much for that, and we're going to have some deep and wise discussions with you as a result of all of that experience. Finally, I want to tell you, we greatly value your collegiality. I mean, just look around here at this room and the other two rooms, and it's obvious you play well with others, and we value that. And so, overall, we welcome you to the court. Thank you so much for applying. Thank you, Governor, for appointing this incredible human being. And with that, Sheriff, you may adjourn.
All rise. This court is adjourned.